the rights to universal suffrage or universal enfranchisement. But countries such as the United States of America, the United Kingdom, Armenia, Bulgaria, Hungary, and Russia prohibits inmates from voting in national elections. This is not fair. Prison is not a place of revenge done on misconduct. It is a false advertisement. Prison instead is a place of reforming an inmate to repent for his or her misconduct within the society. In prison, inmates are not just sitting around waiting for their time to be released. Well, what do these prisoners do within the prison? In prison, inmates are given a time to reflect upon their misconduct. They are given time to realize what they have done wrong. Prison is not just a group of cells inside a building, but prison has many other facilities to offer. Facilities such as libraries, televisions, gyms, carpentry shops, and other productive work facilities. These are resources granted by the government for the inmates to learn and improve their well-being. The true purpose of imprisonment is actually to keep inmates away from interacting with society. Why? Because they pose a threat to the society. It stops there. It is not a place where your rights are taken away from you. It is a place where your rights are limited. Every human being is granted the basic three rights: life, liberty, and property. When a person becomes an inmate, only liberty is circumscribed. In prison, inmates are being reformed. They are to be reborn as a new person, and they are subject to improve their well-being and make changes in their lives. So that at the time when they come out of prison, they learn their mistakes and make amends for it. Learning in prison means that the government has to give their basic rights like any other citizen in the open world, aside from the ability to interact with citizens in the outside world. Prisoners are still given the chance to interact with people. Only this time it's through a telephone booth or outsider visitors. That is why we'd like to give them the chance to also vote in national elections, because it's undeniably their rights as a citizen and as a part of the social contract. As a government side of the House, here are my 3 points of contention. The first point of contention is that prisoners are a part of the social contract. The second is that prisoners are eligible voters. And the third is that inmates are harmless towards the influence of the government. First, prisoners are a part of the social contract. Democracy comes from the Greek word demos, that means people, and kratos, that means power. And when combined together, it is the people's power. How does this apply to prisoners? In Jean-Jacques Rousseau's philosophical standpoint, the social contract, he has a vista of equality among every single person, regardless of their status. Inevitably, thugs, criminals, and felons are a fragment of our social society, and they deserve the same basic rights that all of us have. Therefore, they shall be granted the rights to vote in national elections. Giving inmates the rights to vote might change their lives for the better, but it doesn't necessarily affect the lives of the innocents. Inmates are put in prison for a reason, and that reason is for them to not re-offend into society later on. Eliminating their voices will make them feel oppressed, will make them feel discriminated from the society, and it will result in a more likely nature for them to re-offend in society later on. Not giving inmates the rights to vote is basically saying that inmates are a third of what a person actually is. This violates the fundamental human rights by discriminating them. Sure, they have done something wrong and they shall serve sentence for it. Well, they are actually serving sentence for their mistakes. And voting is not a significant effect to our society, but it might be a good point for them. Prisoners are they who have misbehaved, offended, and threatened the society. They are already given the appropriate sentences, which is isolation from the society. It stops there. No more, no less. Giving these inmates the right to vote is a symbol that can be interpreted as a sign of welcoming them back to the society with open arms. They will cherish and appreciate the rights that we give to them, that the government gives to them. Despite of all their shortcomings, they are still given the fundamental rights of expressing their voices. Second, prisoners are eligible to vote. In order to be eligible to vote, one must be a citizen of a particular country. Second, one must be considered an adult. Third, one must be rational and not mentally sick. Fourth, one must be able to obtain information regarding the candidates and the plans of the candidates for the future. With all the facilities granted by the government for prisoners, they do not have their citizenship taken away from them. Denying their rights to vote means that the government is denying them as a citizen. Prisoners have health care for both physical and mental illness. Therefore, their health is not a problem. Lastly, televisions are a standard facility given to the prisoners, in which it enables them to obtain the information that is required for choosing a candidate. For all these justifications, the government shall not deny the prisoners' rights to vote, as they are eligible to do so. To my last point of contention, I would like to point out that the inmate's voice is harmless towards the influence of the government. Well, let's take USA into account. The country with the most inmates held behind bars denied the rights to 5.5 million inmates to vote in the 2012 presidential election. 5.5 million is a very big number. But when you compare it to the total population of the United States of America, which happens to be 316.1 million people, 5.5 million is only equal to 1.7% in the voting. Let's take the United Kingdom also into account. There are 64.1 million people living within the monarch country. In contrast with the 97,000 inmates held behind bars, 97,000 only represents a mere 0.15% of the total population of the kingdom. Again, statistics prove that it is harmless to give prisoners the right to vote. In 2006, Ireland decided to count the votes of the prisoners, and the study shows that they are overwhelmed by the fact that these inmates voted as likely as they would if they are not held behind the bars. So being behind the bars does not affect any of their political decisions. The opposing advocates may worry that this inmate might influence the way government views prisoners and the way governments treat prisons. But these advocates need not to worry because they don't affect in a significant way. Retracting back to the point of reformation, giving prisoners the rights to vote is actually one of the puzzles to complete a long-term program of reformation. This puzzle piece provides a soothing feel that these prisoners can still contribute to society despite being isolated from them. It sends them a message that all is not lost despite being an inmate. Voltaire once said that I do not agree with what you have to say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it, and therefore we should defend to the death the prisoners' rights to vote in national elections.